Hello everyone, my name is Braedon Kantola and welcome to my presentation on strategic pest management booklets for farmers in Kaffrine Senegal. As Paul stated, I have a huge crowd here, so for everyone that tuned in, thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. So to begin, the inability of farmers to identify the early threats of a locust plague is an issue that's affected communities in Kaffrine for millennia. The reason this issue has persisted is due to the lack of pre-existing institutional arrangements that's restricted today's society on knowing how and when to act when faced with the threats of a developing locust plague. Larger entities often have insufficient enforcement of preventative techniques and slow, often late responses to outbreaks. It's important to know that locust behaviors are either characterized as solitarious or gregarious. Solitarious locusts are innocuous and don't pose a large threat to agriculture. However, when locusts undergo phased polyphenism, they become gregarious and tend to favor highly dense populations that exhibit swarming characteristics. It's critical to identify these early threats, also known as the time before locusts congregate and undergo phase change to prevent an outbreak. If these early threats aren't addressed in a timely and appropriate manner, locust outbreaks negatively affect the environment, society, and economy. First, locusts threaten the viability of ecosystems because they eat all the crops and fruit, therefore leaving a thriving agro-ecosystem dead and barren. As plagues can fit up to 80 million locusts in a square mile and can consume its own weight in food per day, a swarm of such size eats as much as 2,500 people eat every day. Locusts also influence human and social well-being. This can be seen by the effects of the 1987 to 89 desert locust plague in Mali, where schools experienced a 25% reduction in student enrollment because families could no longer afford to put their children through school. Lastly, locusts prevent equitable opportunities for livelihood and economic activities. Farmers living in Kaffrine depend on crop sales to make a living. This means that farmers tend to experience some of the worst effects of plagues since they prevent farmers from earning any money as there's no crops to be sold. To address this issue with locusts, the project focused on the creation of 300 pest identification booklets for 5 different villages in Kaffrine. To help co-create these booklets, I partnered with the Global Locust Initiative, who had been awarded a $500,000 grant from the United States Agency for International Development and Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance. The booklets are to be considered an addition to the 300 control and management booklets, as well as on-the-ground solutions to soil to keep locusts at bay. The intended outcomes of this joint project is that it will help farmers properly identify and prevent locust plagues from forming, but in the long term, it will improve farmer livelihoods, increase millet yields, and strengthen global food system sustainability. Before creating these booklets, my team and I researched early warning systems, locust identification, preventative approaches, and other identification booklets. We then combined these studies with peer-reviewed research on how to best communicate about pest control with farmers, and our team then worked closely alongside subject matter experts that have experience creating identification booklets and look towards these individuals for guidance. So now you may be wondering, what's inside the identification booklets? Well, there's a total of 4 different sections. Section 1 summarizes the booklet and acknowledges the international cooperation between project partners to make this project come to life. Section 2 focuses on the characterization of locusts, locust anatomy, and other general background information. Section 3 covers each of the 13 different species. For each species, there are pictures and illustrations showing what it looks like, identifiable characteristics of the locusts. It describes where the species lives and what it eats, and it portrays other important information and characteristics such as size, life cycle, and so on. Lastly, Section 4 covers the contact information for the Plant Protection Directorate, or the DPV, and other resources located in each region. With this information, the community members can reach out and be able to get a hold of the organization for reporting purposes. Once the material was completed, our team leveraged informative graphic designing as a common social behavior and change communication tool to aid individuals with lower literacy in understanding the ideas and material presented. In other words, our descriptive visuals were added to each page to accompany text to provide context and help illustrate messages. For example, you can see here on the left that there are symbols that illustrate the season, habitat, and so on. Symbols and illustrations similar to these were used throughout the booklet, and more examples can be seen on the following slide. Our team also took the booklets and translated them from English into French in the local language Wolof. Doing so allows all community members equal access to the material and also helps overcome the obvious language barrier. Here, you can see what more of the actual booklet looks like. Starting in the top left, we have a screenshot from one of the identification pages. Here, it shows a picture of the species, illustrations identifying certain characteristics, and actual measurements of both male and females. Next, we have a picture that illustrates the locust anatomy, and this can be seen in section 2 of the booklet. We then have illustrations depicting the life cycle, farmers getting in contact with the DPV for reporting purposes, and illustrations showing when locusts start laying eggs and in which season they start to develop. We then traveled to Kaffrine February 22nd of 2020 to conduct training workshops that enabled us to test our pilot project material and gather feedback in each village. During each workshop, our team presented materials of on-the-ground nitrogen fertilization experiments, handed out and discussed completed and control management booklets, and piloted the identification booklet material. The workshops allow the Senegalese community to ask questions, pose comments, and provide us with feedback before moving forward with the final printing process. For instance, individuals would gather in groups to discuss images and materials that describe the habitats in which each species live, the diets of each locusts, which season each species is spotted in, and so on. The community's feedback regarding these illustrations helped us adjust and better reflect critical details of what they actually experience in their own plots of land. The attention to detail is of high importance to the community there, and these changes can be reflected in the final booklet. The results from the training workshop also provided an insight into the success of our entire project. This can be seen by the Senegalese community's ability and dedication to learning fast, as well as their commitment to continue utilizing these methods to prevent locust outbreaks. For example, during the training workshop, our team presented pictures of several species, such as the Senegalese locust, Odalia senegalensis. After presenting some of the identifying characteristics of O. senegalensis, most notably the shape and markings on top of the neck or pronotum, the community was able to distinguish the species from others within a matter of minutes. Being able to distinguish different species from one another is critical for identification and prevention purposes, as it suggests the potential severity of which species might be on the verge of an outbreak. It's also significant to identify which species are seen, as it will later help the DPV. As you can see in this video that I'm about to show here, this is like a capture of one of the training workshops where farmers were able to identify O. senegalensis from others within a matter of minutes. So for now, our team's waiting to return to Senegal to finish out the remaining workshops, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the trip where we would have been passing out the finalized version of the identification booklet and gathering feedback about the project has been postponed until July. The feedback will be completed through interview questions that our teams prepare to ask community members and is going to serve as a critical component to measuring our team's success. Although this poses a major complication to our project, our team's been in contact with the community there and it's been able to ensure that individuals are aware of the issue and are able to attend our future workshop. Staying in contact with the communities enabled us to still move forward and allowed us to overcome this obvious barrier. Overall, the project can be closed out by handing over 300 of the identification booklets to the farming community in Kaffrine at the final training workshop. As this project consisted of completing material from start to finish and included material specific to the species in the Senegal region, it's unfortunate other students won't be able to pick up any portion of the project. But if a student wishes to replicate this project for a species within a different region, I'd be more than willing to share any of the information that helped me complete my MSIS project. So in conclusion, having worked on this project has opened my eyes to so many experiences and learning opportunities, and none of which would have been possible without Dr. Cease, Alana Burnham, and much of my other team at GLI, colleagues at ASU, and funding from the USAID. Besides being blessed with a chance to travel to Senegal and be able to implement this work firsthand, the most important takeaway that I've learned is gaining a better understanding of how project management works. Being able to see this project grow from an idea to an actual deliverable that is going to be able to help someone and others has solidified my passion for sustainability and has made me truly think about pursuing project management in the future. So in conclusion, that wraps up my presentation, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has.